everybody, and welcome to Communication at the Movies. I'm your host, Chad Eaves, and today we're going to be talking about Superman. Is it a bird? It's a plane. It is another movie, another version, really another kind of reboot of the Superman character. And this is a kind of a re-envisioning, a reimagining of the character by James Gunn, who was also the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, amongst many others. And it's an interesting take, just to give you kind of a quick overview of the movie itself before we dive into some of the communication themes. It's a decent popcorn movie. It's a very uneven movie, I will say that. It definitely looks like a movie that's been through several revisions, maybe several testings, and didn't do so well, was some of the speculations coming out of the movie industry. It's a good popcorn movie. It can be argued, is it really a Superman movie? And then you start getting into the people that remember previous Superman movies, read the comics, etc., versus people that are not as familiar with the character and the lore that goes along with Superman slash Clark Kent. Some of the pre-release hype about it was just going to be a political movie. It's not really political. It's pretty middle of the road when it comes to anything like that. There's nothing really for people to get upset about. I don't think there's a couple things that could have done better. There wasn't a flag in the movie. I think that should have been there. Truth, justice, and the American way. Big meme in Superman. That would definitely been a bonus for it. But the bigger issue with it is there wasn't really a wow factor with Superman. There wasn't even really good flying scenes. Unlike the previous movie, Man of Steel, with Henry Cavill, I mean, you had a lot of big scenes. You had a lot of pulling at the heartstrings. You had the speeches. You had, Superman in the more heroic way than that. This Superman was almost kind of bumbling through the movie in different phases. One aspect that got a lot of attention prior to it come out was Super Dog or Crypto, and I love dogs. They are parts of our family, but Crypto was kind of used more as a Deus Ex Machina role, which basically means something that solves plot problems. If there wasn't something that you could really see a way out of, or maybe a way to advance the story, Crypto appeared. Not saying it was an overtly bad thing, but it got kind of got to where it was kind of predictive in a couple different places. The visuals were average. Like I said, there wasn't really a wow factor. No really new special effects, nothing like that. Costumes weren't particularly, noteworthy one way or the other. And the one thing where the movie did really shine was the cast. They had really good actors in different roles. That's something that was really good. They did a good job with that. I was a little unsure of the Superman actor, Corin Sweat. He did a good job for the most part. I think his bigger issue in diving into this is the next topic is the story. The plot was very uneven. Um, Probably about the first half of the movie was heavily edited. Now, there are spoilers in this review. So if you don't want to hear this, dump out, come back after you see the movie. But there's a scene where Superman is rescued. And that's right, Superman is rescued. It's kind of a problem with the Superman character. But up until that point, the movie was really, really disjointed. And then after that, it seemed to flow a lot better. It's almost like they really, really edited that first half of the movie. And it didn't really come off as being seamless. It definitely felt like a lot of little vignettes. And that did even carry over into the second half. Um, the other problem is I feel like Superman was kind of dumbed down. Superman wasn't like a respected figure. Um, a lot of times he was unsure of himself. He had values that he stuck to, such as trying to capture this one monster versus just killing it. And the other heroes were like, oh no, whatever. And they just killed it. Didn't listen to Superman at all. So it was really interesting to see a Superman version that did not have the respect and the command of presence that Superman typically has. Wasn't real thrilled with that. Um, Also, people just kind of went dumb in this movie. Like there were some allegations of things that Superman has done or would do, and people were just like, "Oh, that must be true." So and so said it. An expert said it. No one questioned it, especially in this age of question information, this age of misinformation. Everybody in the movie was just fat, dumb, and happy. Oh, well, this must be true. That was kind of seemed odd, and there is some blowback regarding this topic having to do with Superman's appearance from Krypton. So you might be hearing about that already, especially if you're looking online. One really, really small bright spot was Frank Grillo. I like him as an actor. I like a lot of the stuff he does. Sometimes the movies that he carries as the lead actor might be considered B movies or low A's, but I really enjoy his work. He was in this. If it was 5 minutes, that was a long time. Maybe it was setting this character up for something in the future. Um, the previous iteration, Man of Steel, was a better movie, no doubt. But go ahead and check it out. If it's worth, if you're trying to stay out of the heat, looking for a couple hours to kill. It's a little over 2 hours, I believe. I get the feeling it was supposed to have been much longer. Uh, the other really big bright spot was strangely a relatively minor character, and that's Mr. Terrific, played by Eddie Gathegi. He's an actor you've probably seen in other stuff. For All Mankind on Apple. He was in the Twilight movies. That's probably where he first got to notoriety and a level of fame was in those movies as a vampire. Uh, I'm going to talk a little bit more about him in the communication section. As far as a rating, leaving the theater, I felt like it was about a 7 out of 10. The more I think about it, I probably knock it down to a 6. And there's people all over the spectrum on this movie. But is it a good entertainment movie? Yes. Is it as good as F1? I don't think so. So let's dive into some of the communication themes here in Superman. The first one was the importance of teamwork, or what should be the importance of teamwork. One thing that's a little different for a Superman movie is they introduced a supporting cast of heroes. There was a Green Lantern character, Guy Gardner. There was Hawk Woman, and there was Mr. Terrific. And they were there. They were part of the Justice Gang, which I'm not a super comic nerd. I thought that sounded kind of stupid as a name. And they were kind of off doing their own thing. And they kind of sort of worked together in bits and pieces throughout the movie. Um, but for their interaction, even fighting bad guys, it felt like kind of a pickup game. There wasn't a lot of cohesion. There wasn't a strategy. There wasn't any leadership really between the heroes, to be quite honest. Like I said, Superman really wasn't elevated. He wasn't respected. And I think that definitely played into how the other heroes interacted with him and what they would do, what they wouldn't do. Now, Superman, as far as his values, he was consistent. He was reliable as far as trying to preserve life. The things that was played out several times throughout the movie when he intervened in a conflict because people were going to die, and also when he tried to save that one monster, the one creature, instead of killing it. And as far as his loyalty, like to his family, his focus on doing the right thing, that was still very Superman like, but it wasn't really amplified in terms of the story. Now, different characters play to their strengths. Talked about Crypto earlier, kind of being this Deus Ex Machina role as far as being a way to solve problems. The dog was actually almost kind of a borderline berserker, the way he would go in there and act and take care of stuff. He got stuff done, but it was almost a matter of convenience in that respect. As far as the strength of Superman, he was always getting beaten. He's always getting knocked around, and that's just not very Superman like. Um, and so there wasn't really this projection of strength coming from this character. I know that there are people like, oh, well, it shows that he's vulnerable. He's Superman, not vulnerable man. And that kind of knocks down probably the leadership perception in his role in the universe of this movie. Um, there's the whole question of what's genuine communication. Uh, One of the pivotal things that happens in the last part of this movie, and this is a spoiler again, is the message from his parents, Superman's parents from Krypton, was decoded, and it said basically take over the world, populate it with your genes, and treat people who oppose you without mercy. Very un-Superman like. Not the whole go there, help them be the best they can, which is typically kind of the message that's interpreted from his parents when they decide to send him to Earth because Krypton was going to be destroyed. So this comes out as the message that Lex Luthor says that his parents are saying. And everybody's just like, oh, well, that must be true then. The experts said it's true. We know nothing else nowadays. It's not to accept a lot of stuff on the face value of it. Who's the benefit? How could it have been manipulated, created? This is a time when information is really to be verified. Is it accurate? And people just kind of roll over on this one. It hasn't played well with a lot of Superman fans as far as like his purpose and why he's on Earth and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see if that's addressed in a future movie. But the bigger communication aspect of this part of the story is people are just like, sure, okay, that's fine. Superman's really a bad man. And they turn on him like on a dime. It's very bizarre. And we probably see it, we've seen that in some of the, the Me Too and stuff like that, where, well, if something's, actual or not, people turn on someone, the cancel culture, stuff like that. So it's surprising that people just turn on a dime like this. There's no hero speech. There's kind of one that starts and then it gets interrupted. It's not to the level of other speeches. Definitely not something that Christopher Reeve, would say in the first movie for sure in Superman 78. There's no like this is what we're better for. There's kind of a speech towards the end, and Superman also kind of makes these assertions that I had to do this because of whatever. But it's not really tied together in a here, come follow me. This is the great things that we can do together because they are right. And not, rallying behind him. Even when he tries to get help from some of the other heroes, they're kind of meh. And the two strongest communicators in the story are Lois, and played by Rachel Brosnahan, and Eddie Gathie's character, Mr. Terrific. They exhibit good communication skills. They exhibit leadership roles. She's really good at connecting people, of getting information to different people. Mr. Terrific is really good at taking that information and making it actionable. What do you do? Actually, to be completely honest, I think Mr. Terrific is the alpha hero, the alpha man in this movie, more so than Superman is. The Mr. Terrific character he has command presence. Eddie Gathie has that. He has his charisma, he has his presence when he's on screen, and it definitely translates into how he portrays Mr. Terrific. So this is an interesting clash in that you have a character who's not the title character, not the marquee character in Superman, who really kind of outshines him in a lot of different ways throughout this movie. We talk about trust and confidence and respect. Superman just doesn't get it in this movie. And in some ways, he's kind of like frustrated with humanity and what he's trying to do. But there's a lot of doubt and distrust and hate thrown his way by the people of Metropolis, by America, by the globe. And it's very odd to see this kind of portrayal. And whereas there's kind of like this wholesale trust into Lex Luthor, the bad guy. So that's kind of a disconnect too in the plot and in the writing. I think a lot of it has to do with what was edited out potentially. From communication is more of a technology communication role. Really interesting depiction of the role of drones and technology, where they are basically kind of the loyal wingman concept, where they go in with people and they fight with them. I think that is really foreshadowing the future of warfare, to where people will have drones that fight alongside them, and also how they're used for communication, video and stuff like that, where people can see what's going on in different aspects. The one question that kind of comes through this though, when you communicate, when you're doing something, what's your desired outcome? What's your line in the sand? And Lex Luthor's is very clear. He's definitely out to destroy Superman. The way he does it is kind of bizarre because he definitely develops a couple of advantages that really could have been game winners and doesn't see through on them. Um, for Superman, you know the values. How much is he like up to acting through on them? Like I said, some of the other superheroes are kind of a little wishy-washy, with the exception of Mr. Terrific. He's very like, I know what I'm about. Um, but especially the government people that work with Lex Luthor are like, whatever you say, we'll do this. We're going to do this. Um, so, those are kind of the high points of communication here is, is there teamwork? Is there not teamwork? Why wasn't there teamwork? There was really an absence of leadership. There's an absence of respect, of presence. Even though people were consistent, a lot of people kind of ignored the negative side of their behavior, of their reliability. Different people played the strengths, but it was really kind of a bunch of meh, competitors for the most part, with the exception, I would say, of Mr. Terrific. Superman in bits and spurts would get his act together, but it was nothing really definitive, in my opinion, as far as what that character was supposed to do. The just wholesale acceptance of questionable information, that was surprising because I don't know that that would happen as easily in today's world as it does in this movie. Though we do see it happening with different factions, whether it's along political lines or whatever, where people just accept whatever because, oh, it's my side. It's kind of reflected here, but it's just the manner in which people are persuaded to turn on Superman so easily is a little surprising. Um, the leadership aspect of this, yeah, it falls into Mr. Terrific and Lois Lane. They're probably the more in front people in this movie. Superman's not made out to be particularly strong. He has his moments, never really gets, catches fire, never really gets momentum. Um, so it's something to keep an eye out for, or if you've seen it, think through that. Think about as far as who had the better interaction with people, who was more effective at getting people to do things, um, and who had the ability to see something through from ideation to focus on desired outcomes and making something happen. And it's a very mixed bag as far as a movie. It's worth seeing. It's not as good as it could have been, in my opinion. It doesn't really measure up to Man of Steel, the last movie, or Superman 78 with Christopher Reeves. So there's definitely some things to look for. Is it as instructive and something to role model as much as Formula One? No. Like I said, this movie, after being out of the theater for a little bit, having seen it, gets a 6 out of 10. Worth seeing, but it's really just kind of a time killer. But it's going to be a divisive movie over the summer until something new comes out. Probably Fantastic Four, which not looking like it's going to be a real good movie, but we'll see what happens with that. Maybe there'll be some surprising communication and leadership lessons to take out of that, even if they're what not to do. So Superman, it's worth seeing. It's not as good as it could have been, and what I think it should have been. And keep an eye out for how the different characters interact and perform with each other. I think for me, the two most effective again are Lois Lane and Mr. Terrific. See you next time at Communication at the Movies.